Republicans have been having quite the bad go of it lately, is how I would describe the overwhelming blowback that we have seen across the country in town halls hosted by Republican members of Congress trying to, I guess, defend the most indefensible actions of Elon Musk and Donald Trump and getting mercilessly booed for it. It has been beautiful to watch because not only is it happening in that moment, but the backlash keeps coming in all places. So much so that Republicans are now scared to do interviews and quitting mid-interview. And that is exactly what we saw from Rich McCormick, the original Republican getting booed at a town hall. He just had to quit an interview because he was so humiliated, so panicked, and because things are going so badly. And we're going to get into all that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into that just embarrassing moment for Rich McCormick, that horrible Republican, I want to get a little update on why things are going so bad for him.
But what James Carville is referring to is this huge drop in support for President Trump and for Elon Musk and what he's doing at Doge. So there were a bunch of polls that came out. CNN has 2-to-1 people are upset about Musk having such a prominent role in the government. Trump's approval rating is down 5 to 7 points across 4 of these big polls. He's underwater on managing the economy, which is obviously what handed him the presidency, 8 points underwater. And then in terms of how the public is feeling, not only reflected in those numbers, did you see those town halls that were going on last night? So Rich McCormick in Georgia, safe seat, people booing him, catcalling. They're concerned with everything from spending cuts to what's going on with Doge to that Donald Trump is becoming a tyrant. Cliff Bentz in Oregon, similar reaction. This guy, Tony Balderson, he's in a Trump plus 18 district in Ohio, saying Trump's executive orders are getting out of control. They are hearing from the American public that what is going on from the Oval Office to CPAC, which is, Pam Bondi being at CPAC seems like a politicization of the office, to say the least, is not what the American public wanted. They wanted someone to come in to get the economy back on track. That hasn't been happening. They wanted a different vision of getting rid of illegal immigrants. They wanted people who are actually convicted of crimes to be the ones getting kicked out, not just picking up anyone who speaks Spanish. So that's what Carville is saying, and I think it's good strategy. Let it happen.
This is a moment in which we have to seize on how unpopular Donald Trump is. All that he has done in the first month of his administration is finally and quite literally hitting close to home for people. They are feeling the effects of his funding freezes. They are feeling the effects of the programs he's slashing. They are feeling the effects of the chaos in our government. And they're not happy about it. Democrat and Republican alike. It was not just pro-democracy boos towards Rich McCormick that we saw. It was not just, Kamala Biden voters that we saw booing Rich McCormick. It was Republicans who are overwhelmingly affected by the actions that Donald Trump has taken. People in red states rely upon the federal government a lot more than someone in New York or California. And they are starting to learn their lesson, and they're not happy about it. So before we get into Rich McCormick, just because it's so therapeutic, let us once again watch him get booed mercilessly.
I'm not going to give you my best foghorn leghorn response to that, but you can go ahead and sit down. Thank you. When you talk about tyranny, when you talk about presidential power, I remember having the same discussion with Republicans when Biden was elected. The funny thing is, you're sitting here and a lot of you would probably say those January 6s who are yelling just as loud as you, who are upset just like you.
Oh man, is that not just delicious? Can I just watch that again and again and again? So that's the stage. That's what's set. That's the context for all this. Republicans are being booed everywhere they go. They're getting mocked. They're getting humiliated. And they know that they can't defend any of these actions. And I'd love for them to just be followed around by that crowd all the time It was so funny. There was one Republican who's like, well, eventually these cuts will start to help. And before he could even like finish just the most half-hearted defense, as the boos rained down on him. And I think that is exactly what Republicans are fearing most right now, this public humiliation. And it's the reason why Rich McCormick did this right here.
We're also supposed to speak with Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick. He was booked when we started the show. We were under the impression he was coming, but he canceled the appearance less than an hour ago.
Oh, man. What cowards. What spineless cowards. You had to quit your interview. You had to bail on it because you were so humiliated by being booed. Good. This is the guy who went on CNN and said that kids in middle school and high school were like moochers and sponging off the government because they were eating breakfast and lunch at school, like they were getting school lunch for free. That's a crime. It is insane. And also, like, what a more fitting name for this just like piece of garbage. Rich McCormick. My name's Rich McCormick. It's like he's a caricature. What a joke. And he can't even stand up for himself. I am just like, if this guy loses his election, I will be throwing a party. And you better believe the food will be free in honor of Rich McCormick. I will, in fact, be sending you a bill, Rich McCormick, for the food that we host at the party as we dance on your grave. You loser. God, it is so nice to see Republicans getting their just desserts, because there was, and I'm going to go on a rant, so prepare for this. There was this it was like a week, like a couple of days, both before and after Donald Trump's inauguration, where so many Democrats, and I was furious, were like, well, maybe he is popular. Some of the polls are showing that he's popular. Maybe people like him. Maybe we have to work with him. And it drove me crazy, knowing that this is what was going to come out of Donald Trump's administration. Just the worst policy we couldn't even think of. We know they had Project 2025. We know they wrote this all down, but there was going to be a way for them to come up with something worse, and they did. We should have never ceded any ground, and I'm just going to move past that. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to think about the future, but let us jump on this opportunity to just rip them to shreds all the time. It is what people want, and it is what we want to do as well. I need everyone in Democratic leadership. I need every Democrat in Congress constantly calling this out, because their constituents are as well. And Rachel Maddow put together such a great compilation of that we just have to take a look.
We're also seeing more people show up at town halls to question their members of Congress. Last night, we showed you part of a town hall that was held in Roswell, Georgia, by Republican Congressman Rich McCormick. I want you to see a little bit more from that. Watch this.
Workers from the nuclear workers, the NNSA, our nuclear stockpile, and CDC workers working on the bird flu being fired by DOGE and then having to be rehired when someone realized, oh gosh, we need those people. Why is a supposedly conservative party taking such a radical and extremist and sloppy approach to this?
You have to do more with less in order to survive.
I understand. Trying to do more with less. That's reasonable. What's not reasonable is taking this chainsaw approach, which they obviously admit when they fired these people and then decided, oh, we fired the wrong people. We got to bring them back in. Why is this being jammed down the pipe so rushed and sloppily?
Crowd goes wild. So that was Roswell, Georgia last night. This was a telephone town hall. Also last night, this was Republican Congresswoman Stephanie Bice of Oklahoma.
I'm a registered Republican voter and retired active Army officer. How can you tell me that DOGE, with some college whiz kids from a computer terminal in Washington, D.C., without even getting out into the field, after about a week or maybe two, has determined that it's okay to cut veterans' benefits?
I think a couple things. Let me give you an example. Did you know that the VA was in charge of payments for illegals for housing? Basically, the VA.
No, I'd like for you to send me. Could you send me that reference so I could research that? Because no, I'm not aware of that. And I would tell you that that's a red herring, a false flag. If you're throwing that kind of political stuff up, trying to cut veterans' benefits, that's very alarming to me.
A registered Republican voter, retired active Army officer. That is the kind of reaction these members are facing, even from Republican voters in Republican districts. This was the scene in West Bend, Wisconsin, with Republican Congressman Scott Fitzgerald. Watch.
When will you stand up to them and say that is enough?
The end result of the fraud and abuse that has been discovered already.
That is a congressman coming to terms with his constituents. West Bend, Wisconsin. About an hour away in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, another Republican Congressman, Glenn Grothman, also getting an earful.
President Trump has issued a lot of executive orders. I think by and large this is moving very quickly compared to other administrations, and I think across the board he's done some very good things. I think he's gotten rid of birthright citizenship.
Illegal as hell.
That's illegal as hell. We are seeing this kind of thing all across the country, and it is interesting. It is Republicans having to face this from their constituents, but you're also seeing Democrats who are largely of one mind with their constituents, but they are getting pushed to fight harder. Congressman Paul Tonko is a Democrat from New York. He represents the area around Albany, New York. This week, Congressman Tonko held a town hall. You might have seen this clip going around, but if you haven't seen it, you will want to. Watch this.
I saw you on TV at NOAA. I saw you on TV at the Department of Education. What I'm saying is this. Somebody asked you what your red line was, and you said that the time is always right to go. Does that mean the red line has already been crossed? Because I think it has. If you ask us to show up, Congressman Tonko, we will show up. But it cannot be. We have to take the gloves off. We can't wait for protocol. They're not playing by the rules.
It is very therapeutic. It makes me feel better. It is good to know that there are people out there who are as fired up as we are, and we're going to continue to be fired up on this show every single day. You know that. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.